so that if anyone misses, they can join. And so, okay, so to kick off the call, as you guys know, we have new coaches on our team. I'm super excited. I feel very it's very important to me to only add coaches to our team that are going to be a good fit and that I am just really, really excited about, and coaches that align with what we're already doing here at Hungry Fitness. So I am thrilled to be able to announce 3 awesome women that have joined our team. So they're on the call. So Casey Millard, I guess maybe I'll introduce you guys and then I'll just put you guys on the spot. If you guys want to just say like your favorite self-care and I don't know, whatever else you guys want the team to know, whether that's like education or maybe what got you into coaching, just whatever you guys want to share. So Casey Millard, she's in Colorado. And what gym do you work out at there, Casey?
I go to CrossFit Broadway and I also coach there.
Okay, that's what I thought. She's, yes, a level 3 trainer. And then Autumn Hawkins is local. I've known Autumn forever. She was like one of the OGs in CrossFit before I started. So I was looked up to her right when I started. And then we had the opportunity to compete together over the years. And she's just an incredible coach as well. So excited for you guys to be able to just get to know them better and learn from them. And then Julie, bottom right on my screen, is a registered dietitian and has a lot of broad experience as well. And I'm just so excited for each one of them to be on our team. And I wanted to answer real quick because we had that little question box that a couple of people did. Thank you for doing that. And one of the questions was, if I can pull it up here, you guys know how like tech savvy I am. So it was on the coaches. Oh, with the new addition of coaches, will current clients be shifted to them to balance the load? And so the answer is no, at least that's not the plan. So these 3 will be taking on new clients that sign up. We'll be going to them based on fit and kind of need there. But we don't plan on moving anyone around. So unless you guys feel like you need to move places, then we can discuss that too. So they're here as we hit capacity so that we can not have a long waiting list kind of moving forward, which we have had in the past. And then also all 6 of us work together a lot with clients. And so like, you know, just so we have extra heads working for you guys too, behind the scenes, like with strategizing and different things like that. So a lot more resources and education and support for you guys, but with the same one-on-one coach. So coaching experience won't change, but we may have more ideas and suggestions for you guys kind of with our combined knowledge moving forward too. So I guess maybe Casey, do you want to start and just say, because I think it's fun and I think self-care is really important, what your favorite like self-care way to recharge is, and then just anything you want us to know about you.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Casey. I'm in Denver right now, but I've kind of lived all over the place in the past few years. We've just traveled a little bit for my husband's job, but I had told him no more moving for the next few years. So hopefully we're in Denver for a while. And yeah, like Michaela said, I've been kind of in the fitness industry for a while now. Started by coaching one-on-one and CrossFit classes, and then eventually kind of made my way more into programming and nutrition. I've had my own personal struggles with nutrition and body image, just with some digestive issues. And then a little bit more recently, I have 2 kids and just dealing with the whole like postpartum journey and accepting my body, but also, you know, wanting to feel more like kind of my old self to a certain extent. So those are kind of experiences I really pull from and really want to connect with all of my clients on. Self-care, I love spending time by myself. I know that might sound a little weird, but anytime I can get some peace and quiet, whether it's reading a book at home or just going for a walk with my dog, sometimes it's in the car and I just turn the music off and sit in silence. That's what kind of recharges me, and that's my go-to self-care at the moment.
I love that. I'm the same way. I'm not a morning person, but I feel like motherhood has made me a morning person because I can just have that quiet time. It's so nice.
Yeah.
I love that. Thanks for sharing. And then Autumn's in Mexico. Autumn, do you want to try sharing? I don't know. We'll see how her Wi-Fi is. She's in yeah, I love it. If you want to unmute, you can share too.
So I am in the middle of Baja. So it's like crazy backcountry Mexico. So I'm sorry if you guys can't hear me, but I'll try. So I'm Autumn Hawkins. I have been doing CrossFit for a long time, probably about 10 years now. I've studied nutrition on and off through the years in different schools. Finally got a degree in Weber State. Just always have loved training females, training kids, training people in general. I really enjoy doing that. I got introduced to macro counting probably after the first time that I went to the game. So it was about 2014, and it completely changed how I ate, and it completely changed how I looked at food. I instantly fell in love with that format of eating, and I've been doing it since then. And I love introducing it to new people and showing people how it can completely change them and how they eat. So that's my little bit of my background. I guess I've coached on and off CrossFit for years too. Right now I'm coaching at a gym that me and my husband have. And I coach mostly females all day long, and it's super fun. But self-care, I'm probably the same as Casey and you, Michaela. Morning mom thing. I've got to have my time to myself. I've got to drink my caffeine. I love being with my kids, but I also love spending time with my dog. I have a new dog that I love. So yeah. So that's probably my number one self-care. Hopefully you heard that.
Yes, we did. And she doesn't live in Baja, Mexico, but she's there until the end of this week, right? I think just today is maybe your last day, right?
Yeah, so I'm coming home Saturday.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, fun. And yeah, Julie, you want to go now too?
Yeah.
Oh,
So I coach at a gym out here called Fusion Fitness. I just started going to it. It's a CrossFit, kind of a CrossFit split gym. And I don't really work out there. I work out mostly at home. I've only been there for about a month. I just kind of transitioned from a strength gym coaching there to this gym. And a little bit about my background. So I have an undergraduate degree in exercise science. I worked in the field as an exercise specialist and personal trainer for quite a few years, decided to go back to school, got my master's in nutrition 4 years ago. And that year prior to finishing my thesis, I studied for the boards and I became a registered dietitian. So I've been doing that for about 4 years, something like that now. And I've been in the wellness field for like 11 years. It's been quite a while. Okay. So the question was about self-care. I am like the self-care queen. I have no bodies that I have to take care of other than my own. So it's amazing. I love naps, like give me a good nap and I'm like a happy camper. I also am one of those like hangry people. So like food, naps, I like going to the sauna, like just quietness. I'm very, very blessed.
I love that. I've been wanting to get one of those, those like sauna. Have you guys seen those that people have that at their houses, like the cedar ones? That looks so dreamy.
I know. I'm not a huge sweater when I work out and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
so when I go to the sauna, I feel like I always get like a good, like, I feel so
Blend.
relaxed.
I
Yeah.
know. Yes. I want one of those so bad. I can't decide like if it's one of those things I really would use every day or if like I would just look at it. I feel like I would use it. But yeah, that's awesome. And I love naps too. I miss them. I haven't had a lot of them lately, but I do. I like napping.
We're getting one of those saunas when in our house in Norway.
Oh,
Andrea-
nice.
Huge on sauna. It's not really my thing, but I sit close to the door on the floor for 2 minutes and then I'm out of there. But Andreas is on it.
Yeah, I don't like being hot, so that's my hesitancy on those.
But then you have the sauna we're gonna get, and that's better because you can breathe more easily there.
Yeah, for sure. I apologize. I have kids like leaving for a play date right now. So I wanted to answer these questions, but I might have you guys kind of lead it on this first one so I can get them out the door. One of my kids can't find a sock. So one of them was, when can you realistically start to see results with fat loss? So maybe if one of you, Sam, if you haven't, I don't think I've heard from you yet. Whoever wants to kind of like start that discussion, we can kind of kick that off on when you can start to realistically see fat loss. I would love more. I don't see, these are anonymous questions that you guys submit, so I would love more details on that one. But we can kind of talk through that. And and I apologize. Let me get them out real quick and I'll be right back in like 10, 15 seconds.
So the typical answer, it really depends. It depends on how long you have been in a fat loss previously. Have you been at maintenance for a while? What were you doing before you entered the fat loss phase? Is your body still super stressed? If stress is too high, likely it's going to take a lot longer because you're going to hold on to water and your body just does not want to be stressed. So it's going to do everything that it can to decrease the stress, and that will cause a lot of water retention. But if you did a good amount of reverse dieting, you sat at maintenance for a while, maybe you even did a surplus, then like it just really depends on the individual. But typically, like seeing results on the scale, if you do a mild deficit, you can start seeing like 1/2 pound to 1 pound loss within, usually like I'd say 2 to 3 weeks, probably. It really depends. I don't know what any of you other coaches have anything to say about that.
I wanna say that what I think is also important that us coaches are very clear about is when we have a new client come on and that client starts maybe in a reverse, and then we have some weeks ahead of us in maintenance. Through all of that time in a reverse and in the maintenance, that can be the first 12 weeks that we work together, then you might not see any fat loss because that is the road to the fat loss stage that is necessary to be in for you to be able to lose fat in a sustainable way while you're healthy, your well-being is a priority, your hormones are balanced, everything that we work for and that we are pro. So if that is the case for you, if you have started in a reverse and you are working towards a maintenance, you might see some body composition changes, and basically that could be some kind of fat loss, even if that doesn't show on the scale, because you are putting on more muscle and then it moves around, so to speak. Fat disappears and muscle appear, but the scale might stay the same. But I think that fat loss in itself, that is something that we will come to when you are in a deficit again. So if you are in a reverse or you are in a maintenance, and we should be quite clear with you about where you are, then you shouldn't expect fat loss there. This is what we're doing for you to be able to lose fat longer down the line, so to speak. So I think that is something I feel is the most important thing for a client to know, so that you don't expect fat loss from day one when you start working with us. If you have, as Sam said, been in a situation where you have been being in a deficit for a long time, under eating for many years, your stress levels are super high, then our first focus for you won't be fat loss. It will be to get your body in a thriving position so that you are able to have fat loss moving forward. Yeah.
That's a really good point. I don't think that a lot of people look at, when you're looking at just the number on the scale, we're not just talking about fat loss. And there's a lot of like crash diets and things out there where people are like, I lost 5 to 10 pounds in the first week. And when you're talking about those kinds of pounds, that's not legitimate fat loss. You're going to see, you know, weight reduction from fluid retention and being maybe a little bit dehydrated, depending on what you're taking in. And especially if you're super depleted, you might even see like a little bit of muscle mass loss, but you're not seeing that as just one strict number on the scale. You would really have to look at all of those things diversified in like a, you know, BIA or something like that.
Yeah, that's one of, I think and you guys probably agree, I don't think there is one size fits all for people when it comes to the best approach for you. I think it can be very individualized. Some people do better on higher fat, some people do better on higher carbs, but there are some things that happen with certain diets that can be frustrating from a nutrition coaching standpoint, because we see people get disillusioned with thinking that they are losing fat, or thinking that other people are losing fat and that that's the way to do it. Like keto is an example of that. When you really slash carb intake down really quickly, you're going to lose all of that water weight, is going to come off immediately. So that's where people see a big drop on the scale initially. And then that's where, you know, when they can't sustain that diet, because it is very challenging to sustain, they start eating carbs again, and they're depleted in carbs. So they probably crave carbs and maybe go from like hardly any to a high carb diet. And that's where you see like a swing of 10 pounds overnight. And people get so frustrated with that. So that's something too that, you know, water retention is so important. Can you guys hear me okay? It's like skipping on my end. Water retention is really important to consider. And those of you that have been with us for a while and are tracking your weight daily, you know that, like, you see those trends and you recognize those trends, and you don't worry about that as much anymore too. Clients that are with me now, that have been with me for a while, where in like the earlier months, they freak out when the scale goes up during the month. And I talk them through like, okay, are you ovulating? All right, that's normal to retain some water right here. And then at the end of your luteal phase, water weight retention is very normal too. And then I'd start to see a couple months in, they already can tell me like, oh, look, my weight's up. I went out to eat last night. Sodium intake was a lot higher. Or, oh, I didn't sleep very well at all yesterday. Obviously, that's where the peak in the scale came from. Or we just started a new training phase and I'm sore, probably retaining some water. So those are all things to keep in mind too. And especially with fat loss, I think a lot of people, when they start a calorie deficit, they're also starting a new training plan. So, and then they're probably also prioritizing fiber intake and drinking lots of water. So all of those things, like your muscles are going to fill up with fluid. And then also when you're eating more fiber, you're just going to have, it takes a minute for your body to acclimate. And so you might even see the scale go up at the beginning of like a healthy period that you feel like is a healthy period for you. And you want to drop calories down and do things aggressive. And it's just important to give your body a couple of weeks to adapt, because you very well could be losing body fat and just not see that yet. And that's where, you know, seeing those long-term trends of what the scale does for clients, and you can like see just how fat loss is not linear. Like I think I maybe have one client that had linear fat loss in like hundreds of clients where it was just really a straight line. Most of them, you're going to see fluctuations, but the overall trend line is going to be going down, and that's what we want to see. So hopefully that helps. Was I breaking up on that? No?
I'm breaking up.
Okay.
Always.
No, we weren't breaking.
I have a new laptop and I'm noticing some wetness on my desk here, and I'm kind of nervous that one of my kids spilled some water on it. So hopefully not. Okay. Yeah. So hopefully that helps for whoever asked that. Anything else anyone wants to add to that? I missed kind of the beginning part.
I'll add that first, I agree with that, what everyone has said. But a couple of things is that the scale is not the only kind of way we can measure fat loss. And then often with my clients, I see some body recomposition before the scale starts to move. And so I think that's why it's kind of important to do those body measurements. Not every day, not even necessarily every week.
Yeah.
But you might start to see the inches on your body start to fall off before that number on the scale. So that kind of, all of the other metrics that we track, like your sleep and your stress and your hunger levels and your mood, those things can also help clue us into your body starting to change and adapt to something that is maybe healthier than where we started out. And often I've just seen those things precede fat loss.
Yeah.
So it's also why it's important to not necessarily be perfect with your nutrition and macros, but consistent, so that when those scale fluctuations, do have around your cycle or a heavy training day, you actually understand them and you know the reason why, rather than seeing that number change and just kind of being like, oh gosh, it was something I ate. Well, it may not have been something that you ate, right? So yeah, those are the only kind of things I would add.
Yeah. And I think that's a good leadway into the next question on tips on staying motivated to be consistent with food week after week. So I think Casey nailed it with and I had a client do a check-in yesterday. It's kind of the same thing, a newer client, and she is a few weeks in feeling like, oh, this is hard. It's hard for me to stay motivated. And I think a big piece of that is when you're trying to be perfect, it is going to be really hard. Like you might be able to do that for a couple of weeks, but then life's going to get in the way a little bit. And it's finding the flexibility and knowing that 80%, 85% is going to give you such long-term sustainable results versus 100%, because 100% you can't maintain. So knowing that and knowing that you're going to have days where you're a little under on fiber or under on protein or over on calories. But if you just kind of stick with it and keep building consistency, then you're going to see your goals be met too. So anything you guys want to add to that on just staying motivated?
Honestly, sometimes you just aren't motivated, just like mom life or with anything like training or just anything in general. Like some days you don't want to do it, but you know that you have goals, and sometimes you just have to go through the movements. Maybe you're a little bit, like Michaela said, more flexible. Maybe instead of trying to hit calories, protein, and fiber, you just aim for fiber that day that you're not feeling very motivated, or water, or walking. Like sometimes just taking a step back and not trying to be perfect can help as well. But again, just the more you do it, the more it becomes a part of almost not necessarily who you are, but just how you feel better about yourself, or that it's going to make you feel better in the long run because you have more energy or your digestion's on point, all those little things too. So sometimes you don't feel motivated and you just kind of do it anyways.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think expecting to feel that same level of excitement and motivation that's changing that expectation can help a lot. Like knowing there will be probably more days that you're not motivated, and that's helpful too, so that you can kind of work with those days too. So Ashley asked, can you all touch on what determines how long you are in a maintenance phase? Yeah. Does anyone want to take that one, or I can?
I can say something. From me, what we usually say is if we have hormones as our focus point, then 12 weeks in maintenance after a longer time in a deficit is optimal, because 12 weeks a month what it takes for hormones to get back in balance after not being in balance. And that is then, of course, it depends on how have your stress levels been, how long have you been in a deficit, mostly those two things, like how much stress have your body been through and for how long, and how well have you been doing then. If you have done been in a deficit, how well have you been doing in the reverse? How easy has that been for you, or smooth has that gone, and how long has that taken? So I think that with that in mind, 12 weeks is what we say. But if we have a client that has, stress levels are low, you're sleeping well, the deficit hasn't been for too long before, and you have done a really, it's gone smoothly, so to speak, in the reverse, it's gone quick, and your body has responded well, then I say to my clients, at least 4 weeks in a maintenance is what I would like for all my clients, no matter what. So yeah, that would be my reply, between 4 and 12, and maybe longer, all depending on and how you as a client, how eager you are to get into a deficit. But then if I put you in a deficit before 12 weeks, then I will lay out for you, okay, we can do that. That is your choice. But your body will probably respond better the longer you are in the maintenance. But hey, it's your life, it's your choice. So I think it's all about information. But yeah, that's how I say to my clients, at least between 4 to 12 weeks, depending on the past and how well the body is responding, and stress management and all of that.
Yeah. And I think it's important to remember too, that when you're in a calorie deficit, your body is in a deficit. So that's going to be more stressful on your body. That's going to make workouts more challenging. You're not going to be able to optimize building muscle. Energy levels are going to be lower. Digestion could be affected. Sleep is very likely to be affected. Your non-exercise activity level is going to go down. Thermogenesis of food is going to go down. So there's so many things that happen when we're in a calorie deficit that can be hard on our bodies. And so knowing that when you're in a deficit, it should be focused, and you should have, kind of a tentative timeline on how long you're going to be there. And the majority of your time should be spent in maintenance or calorie surplus. That's where the magic happens. So And so that's kind of part of that too, I would say, on just making sure when you are reversing, knowing that if you've been chronically under eating for a long period of time, you're probably going to benefit from spending a good year in maintenance calories, so at least to really just restore your metabolic capacity, make sure you're thriving before just diving right back into a calorie deficit, because that's not always the answer to changing your physique. That might not always be the answer to just become a smaller version of yourself too. So I think that's really important to remember. Also, if you haven't taken a lot of time to really push that threshold on the upper end of your calorie intake, then I recommend trying it, because there are a lot of great things. And I didn't even mention libido. That's another one too. That's, really important. So something to keep in mind too, if you're just feeling anxious to get into another calorie deficit, just consider, and that's where we really look holistically at everything. All of your biofeedback is really important. So, and I think we have another question, but we have to end. I'm so glad you guys have so many questions. I'm going to save this one. Keep talking about getting your hormones in balance, but what if your hormones are regulated by birth control? So yeah, so then that's going to be different. You're natural, you're going to have synthetic hormones that are going to change. Very helpful. Thank you. So we won't know really kind of where things are at if you're on hormonal birth control from a reproductive hormone standpoint. Does anyone want to add on that? I will say kind of your menstrual cycle is a really good pulse for your health. So if you're masking that, then there's a lot of things that you may not know, but looking at other biofeedback too, how are your energy levels? How's your digestion? How's your sleep? Those things are going to help tell you, how you're doing too. So I think you can definitely still have a really good good way to assess how you're doing and how you're feeling. But when you do have that regular cycle, it can be helpful in that way. When you're on birth control, you don't have the fluctuations hormonally though. So that can be helpful in a different way too.
And when you're talking about hormones, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, real quick. There are also hormones that aren't necessarily affected by birth control.
I was just gonna say,
For sure.
Yeah, that can help like tell your story. So, where
Get
your
blood work.
cortisol levels, your leptin and your ghrelin, those are hormones that help control overall appetite that may not be affected by hormonal birth control.
Yeah, but sleep, like lack of sleep will definitely affect those, and stress will affect those for sure.
Overtraining. And then you have to look at your cortisol, you have your thyroid, like there's so many hormones that are in your body. It's not just the sex hormones that we look at. And again, it's looking at all of those things. How's your sex drive? Are you exhausted all the time? Are you really hungry? You're not hungry at all. Like all of those things come into play too.
And with that being, I was going to say on hormones, like when we do see blood panels from people, typically it confirms, I would say for the most part, not always, it confirms what we kind of already know just from talking through your biofeedback. So it can be nice to get that confirmation, like from blood work, to know, okay, we're moving in the right direction. Like maybe we're reverse dieting, but typically, if thyroid is tanking, your reproductive hormones are off, cortisol levels are high, like we're going to know before that you're not feeling great, sleep, you're not getting good sleep, your hunger levels are all over the place, like maybe compliance is really hard. So all of those things are going to kind of tell us that. But we can look at blood work and see, just to confirm those things. So, and then, optimizing those like thyroid, reproductive hormones, cortisol, really is lower stress, bring food up, maybe titrate your training so that your volume and intensity is down if you need to, like really do what we can to optimize your body so it's in that parasympathetic mode as much as possible. Yeah. Well, we have a few more questions.
Balance is a tough word there too, because every person
is different.
Like it's not like you're looking at that, I don't remember what the name of that scale is that goes from side to side. Like you're not looking at that. Right. Every single person is different. And if you're very sensitive to certain hormones in your body responding in certain ways, I mean, even looking at it on labs, depending on when you get your labs done, it can be it's going to be different for every person. And if you're very sensitive, even if you're up a little bit in certain ones, so it's those responses in your body of like, oh, I can't sleep. Sleep is huge. Sleep is a real big one. Or like, I don't have the energy to exercise. I mean, there's just so many cues that you're like, okay, I got to get those in check and see how my body is going to respond.
It's more about optimizing than it is necessarily balancing. And just because like my thyroid levels are like normal, they might not be normal for me. I know that I don't do well if they're on the lower end of low. I do better when they're closer to the higher end of normal. You know what I mean? So it's more about optimizing than it is really balancing.
Yeah. Optimizing for you and knowing that the normal ranges are like typical blood work, normal ranges is based off Western medicine too. So if you're in the normal range and you don't feel well, know that you might not be optimal. I think that's important to remember. Yeah, good questions. And we have a few more, so we'll be saving those for next time or answering them kind of on the group chat too. But thanks for joining. And again, so excited to have Casey, Autumn, and Julie on the team. So a great way to really use their knowledge, guys, is through the group chat. In the meantime, ask questions on there, because if you guys have questions, other people probably have the same questions. So continue to do that. And if you're not sure like which category to post, just do it in the announcements one. Just throw those questions up and know that we're all in different phases and stages of learning. But even if it's like a question you feel like is basic, everyone can use the opportunity to review anything. So it's all very helpful for everyone to hear. So thanks for joining. And I hope you guys all have a good Thursday. And then everyone else, you guys can stay on. I'll just hit stop recording.